Okay, welcome back. It's an interesting day. We've already seen, and not even an hour has passed as far as markets are concerned. Markets open, but we're down again for the second time. We're down again. Look at that sort of intraday graph, and it kind of tells you the story because people are, I think, grasping at straws. The big shock reaction is behind us, and I think that is very clear. But what happens from here and how will the shape of things change? For the first time, the Modi-led BJP will have to depend on sort of coalition partners in the real sense to form the government. There will be give and take. We've not had those kind of things for the last 10 years. So there's a strong recency bias as well, which needs to be reset. And I think some of that is happening as we speak. We have Mr. A.K. Bhattacharya with us, Editorial Director at Business Standard. And we have Senior Journalist Sanjeev Srivastava joining in as well. Gentlemen, good morning. Good to have both of you here. Mr. Bhattacharya, Prashant, this side, if I can start by you. Your column this morning is titled Governance Challenges for a Coalition. I can't read it because I don't have the subscription. I plan to take one. But if I can request you to begin there, what are your sort of big thoughts in terms of the political economy from here and how things will change? Go on, sir.
Well, I won't try to reveal everything that I've written because that is behind the paywall. But what I can tell you in brief is that the stock market reflecting the kind of contentious economic reforms path that this country is going to face going forward. While there is no doubt that the welfarist economic approach will be continued, but key contentious economic reforms tasks that any government would have had to undertake given the opportunities that lie ahead of this vast Indian economy, that will be hotly debated given the fact that this is going to be a coalition government, and not just a coalition government where the top leadership is not really used to giving and taking. So therefore, while the economic fundamentals continue to remain strong, the government finances are stable and robust. What I do worry about is how well the new government will negotiate those turns and twists that are necessary to exploit the opportunities that lie ahead. One input that I would give you is this, that India's economic reforms experience has shown that when there is a crisis for a coalition government, and when I say economic crisis for a coalition government, the coalition government does exceedingly well as far as the key economic reforms agenda of any economy is concerned. But whereas when there is a coalition government that does not really face harsh economic challenges, then the demand for those reforms actually cannot be met very easily. So therefore, I do worry about this dichotomy of sorts, where the Indian economy, the economic fundamentals, and as you just now pointed out, the corporate earnings would continue to do well, but the governance, the political economy, the coalition politics will probably take a toll in terms of furthering the economic policy agenda that any government like India's should actually pursue.
So, you began by saying the welfarist approach will continue, right? A lot of market watchers that we've had on the program since the morning, their talk, the way it's kind of put, the narrative which is put is that so far it's been very, very disciplined, and the risk actually is if you go the welfarist route, right? So how, is there a bit of a dichotomy there? Are we talking about something very large, extra, because of the coalition government now, or because, as you said, I mean, we've already had a lot of welfare schemes which have been running for the last 10 years.
Well, the welfare schemes that have been run so far are riding on two basic fundamentals. One is that it is riding on a technology platform that makes the scheme's delivery relatively less porous. That's number one. And number two, the government finances have been strong, and even though the welfare schemes have spread far and wide, the overall impact on the fisc has so far been kept under control. But remember that welfarist policies also lead to addressing the consumption demand problems of an economy. While the coalition government needs to attack the growing problem of one, jobs, and two, unequal growth, and three, the kind of uneven growth that has taken place in the Indian economy. Now, to my view is this, that the welfarist approach addresses partially, though partially, this problem of demand. If the coalition government is committed enough to addressing this consumption demand challenge that the Indian economy is facing, I would say that the doubts and the concerns that the market analyst on your show must have expressed will be less serious. We need to address the more basic concerns of the Indian economy, which are not necessarily growth, but of jobs, of consumption demand, because we are doing very well with the investment, and although that is being driven by government expenditure. No, unless the government expenditure is supplemented by consumption demand and growth, which can encourage the private sector to release their animal spirits through higher investment, I don't see the problem getting resolved.
Absolutely, Mr. Bhattacharya. And I guess that remains a huge point of debate, because one thing that we've not seen in the last couple of years is tax tinkering that puts more money in the hands of the people, so to speak. So whether it's income tax, whether it's capital gains, whether it's GST, we've not seen the government go down that road, and it's been given a lot of brownie points in the market for that. But we're coming to that in just a bit. Let me bring in Mr. Srivastava into the conversation as well. So, Mr. Srivastava, a two-point question here. First, we're trying to ascertain, in your opinion, whether, Modi 3.0 can navigate the coalition dharma well and run this like a well-oiled machine. We were doing an analogy with a corporate. If this is a corporate entity, then it's like having two new independent directors on the board and pretty seasoned ones, and you need to make sure that you keep them, in sync. So that's one part of it, whether you think that will happen seamlessly or not. And the second is any rethink or a change in the BJP's own economic policy. And if yes, then where will that tilt be? Your thoughts?
So as far as your analogy on independent directors goes, I can take it a step further. These are the independent directors which promoters can't change. Or they can't have a different set of independent directors so easily. So they have to swim or sink with them. There are not many options on the table for them. And whether the BJP can really navigate this, I think AKB put it quite well. Mr. Modi will have to go back to, in a manner of speaking, class 1 of his school. Because all through his career since 2002, when he has been in power as Chief Minister thrice of Gujarat and twice the Prime Minister, he has had a very different style of functioning, which speaks of everything else but consensus building. So to now deal with allies, and deal with allies which are not just your crutches, but can also become albatross around your neck if not handled properly, it will require a completely, Mr. Modi 3.0 will have to be more like Mr. Vajpayee, if not Manmohan Singh. Manmohan Singh was too flexible. Mr. Vajpayee was the right mold of flexibility and firmness in things which mattered to him. I think so. One has to see a new incarnation, avatar of sorts of Mr. Modi if he has to run this coalition government well. And I know, I don't know, but I think Mr. Modi, behind this great veneer or facade of Ekla Chalo Re and a strong man, is also at heart is a very pragmatic politician. Yeah. What is more important for him is to run a government and last a full 5-year term than to prove some brownie points as to how strong man image he has and what kind of, all the oomph and swag about him which was there for the last 10 years. So I think to sum it up again, if you take 2014 to 2024, that would be, if you take last 4 decades politics, so this 10-year period can be seen as some kind of an aberration, where a strong man, strong government came. Now it's back to usual. It's business as usual. Yeah, so we have come back to normal days. And I think on one point which Mr. AKB was mentioning, I think having Chandrababu Naidu as one of the crutches is great because Babu is himself a big reformer, or he fancies himself as one. Very pro-industry, pro-growth, pro-economic reforms, and pro-development and all of that. And Nitish Babu will be happy with if he's accommodated and continued as Chief Minister of Bihar, and if Bihar is given a special status. So some doles will have to be given out. He'll have to be given. That will be another interesting thing. Both Mr. Naidu and Nitish Kumar can demand and get their pound of flesh in terms of ministerial berths.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the way the numbers are stacking up right now, I think at 292, there's still some, bargaining power that obviously the BJP as a single largest ally will have.
Not some,
a lot.
quite a bit.
A lot. Absolutely.
Yes.
Take that point. So very quickly on the second element, and also respond to what AKB was just saying, in terms of economic policy itself, the BJP's own thought process, will there be a shift? Because we've not seen that largesse on tax cuts. I mean, even just going into this election, there was nothing on personal income tax. There's been nothing on capital gains in terms of a reduction or GST or any of that sorts. Will we see that? Is that a realistic expectation to keep on the table?
For a middle and salaried class which is not investing in making gains in stock markets,
in the stock market,
the last 10 years have been the worst.
Absolutely.
You not just pay your 33 or whatever slab you are in, that kind of tax, plus then you pay GST and pay taxes on just about everything extra. From the minute you get fuel for your car to your eating out in a restaurant or buying a car, booking an airline ticket, taxation comes to roughly 50%. So Mr. Modi and company may well think about it. I don't think they will think much about it. But what I disagree somewhere is I think this fear of going the welfare way a lot more aggressively is, I think, unfounded. Because nobody is deriving out of the results that more welfares would have meant more seats for the BJP. It's completely the takeaways and reasons for their not so bright performance are entirely different. So I don't think the welfare path will be walked upon with any great vigor or aggression.
No, Prashant, I don't know if you noticed or not, but yesterday in the speech, Prime Minister Modi went back to the old tagline, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. There was a lot of talk of inclusivity, taking everybody along. So I don't know if that was a glimpse of things to come, but it seems sort of take the mass with you sort of an approach. Now, whether that mass is in terms of economic strata, whether it's different communities or religions or whatever, we have to see. But there was a clear note of that last night.
Take allies together.
That's to begin with.
And one more point, talking about Vajpayee as well as the Modi government, what's common between them is Mr. Naidu as well as Mr. Kumar were part of that one as well, but as senior leaders at that time. Then in the last 10 years or so, they went, into their own space. And now, in fact, Mr. Modi is gone back to them as well, because at that point of time, they were as still tall leaders.
Yeah.
Now they're making a bit of a comeback of sorts.
Mr. Bhattacharya, if he's there with us, Mr. Bhattacharya, just any sort of last thoughts, anything else you'd like to add with what we should expect? Special packages. We had Neelkant Mishra with us in the morning. Andhra Pradesh and Bihar both have been talking about demanding special packages, denied so far. I mean, that should be a given now, should happen. But in terms of how the cabinet formations, give and take, what's your sense, sir?
Well, two quick points. One, I agree with what Sanjeev just now mentioned about the need for tax rationalization and tax reforms, which you will remember that it was there even in the BJP's manifesto. So I do expect the tax reform agenda to be taken far more seriously now. That's number one. And number two is this, that in economic policy making will require not just coalition requirements, the coalition dharma, so to say, to be followed with the partners of the government, but also coalition dharma, inclusion and inclusive political management will be required within the BJP, in my view. So therefore, I do see the impact of coalition dharma not only impacting BJP's own internal decision-making, but also BJP's decision-making with regard to the coalition partners. So I do see a different government led by the BJP, where the coalition dharma, the coalition requirements would be implemented will be carried out not just with regard to its partners outside the BJP, but also with the key players within the BJP who will provide leadership to this government.
Mr. Bhattacharya, one point is, so we are tracking markets and a lot of these consumer-facing stocks are jumping. I mean, they were up yesterday, they're up today. And sometimes this is just feedback loop. You look at prices and you kind of try to attribute reasons to it. But it kind of goes back to some of what we were discussing, which is not welfareism, but maybe a little bit more focus on the at the mass end. Now, Sanjeev, he said that's not the takeaway. That it's not as if if there had been more welfare, this would have been different. At least not right now. That's not the takeaway. But just your thoughts. Could that come in what shape or form? Yes, go on.
My sense is that, yes, there may not have been greater demand for more welfare schemes, but definitely what has worked in favor of the ordinary citizens of this country is the welfareist approach of this government. Now, and this is riding, as I said, on technology and a very foolproof delivery system. So there is, when the government in power realizes that of the various instruments that were used to mobilize greater political support for the party, the ones that may have worked against them will probably will be less in use. But whereas the ones that had seen no opposition within and outside will be explored with greater detail and greater focus. So that is the reason why I believe that this government probably will need to address the welfareist concerns and the welfare schemes far more imaginatively and far more effectively, because don't forget that the country's major economic challenge is not necessarily the way the GDP is expanding, the way the market participants are probably making more money. Remember that the last 5 years have seen the market participants do rather well. So therefore, the real challenge for the policymakers would be, how do you ensure the challenges of reviving demand, which in turn will also revive the economic fortunes of large number of companies which are into the rural economy segments. So I think the government will focus in various ways on policies that address both jobs as well as the demand from the rural economy, and so that the overall the economy grows not just on one engine, which is the investment, but also on consumption.
Okay, I had more questions, but we're out of time, and we can maybe request both of you to come on over the next many days and weeks. Thank you very much, Mr. Bhattacharya. Sanjeev, it's always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18. So that's the sort of discussion on the political economy front, which I think remains as important.